I'm going to tell everybody in school, if you want to see my dad on YouTube, to say on it, the tape never lies. Go sit in the hat.
Yes.
For Lord Cars.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Man to the people.
You know it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive.
Analytical preparation, that's what cars is given. Cars don't discriminate, teaching the men and women. Each and every week, there's nerd to get your focus. Never manipulating stats, Lord, cars and hocus pocus. Cars, keys, they're never lost. Checking source, never gonna find a better scouting report. Cars going live with the smartest man, my bestie. Deciphering holes on the defense like Getsy. New show, uniforms, orange with the dark sea. Tape never lies, patrons, this is Cars
You know
Keys.
it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. We gotta break down tape like detectives. No hot takes, just real football perspectives. The Bears nerd dropping science on his terms. TTNL giving Bears press like a perm. Other networks is off with the heads. Stats plus film equals football cred. Analysis like Data Ted tries to shred. McCaskey's letting me cake, we keep the 100 crew fed. Cars keys, let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. Lord Hines in his party, fill up a goblet. Lord Hines in his party, fill up a goblet.
That dramatic intro every single week. Cars Keys, we're back. Season 2, episode 28. Coming off a Bears win. The Bears have their franchise quarterback. Fuck Justin Fields. Nah, I'm just kidding. Trying to fire up the masses. You guys are crazy. I didn't mean that at all. Get in here. Let's bring our guy out. We're ready to go.
What do you mean you did? What do you mean you didn't mean it? We were just talking about how done with him you are overall.
I mean, don't you remember draft night? How upset I was and just full of vitriol and piss and vinegar.
You totally did not offer up your child to draft him whatsoever.
I offered him up to New York that night. Exactly.
So,
Live on air.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and very clearly, you are not a fan and never have been a fan.
Yes, absolutely. I don't have a Justin Fields fat head over here or a Justin Fields TTNL poster over there. Yeah, I'm just not a fan. Listen, you know what? I hope Justin can be the quarterback of the future, and I'll root for him as long as he is. But I will still be honest with my assessment on him. And if he happens to move on, I'm still going to be a Chicago Bears fan. If Tyson Bagent doesn't work out, I'm still going to be a Chicago Bears fan. Now, if they draft Caleb Williams and they bring back Matt Eberflus, then we'll have a big debate. But Cars, what's up, my man? We're back.
It's so weird to be here after a week and then watch the Twitter storm of just arguments back and forth about the quarterback position. You would really I mean, we kind of knew this was going to happen. He could have thrown for 6 yards and we would have won the game. And people like, I don't know, we win when he's on the field, right? Like
Right.
it's no different, but it is very weird to kind of look back over the last 3 weeks and minus 4 weeks, minus a lot of that Minnesota game, realize how much on defense has changed and
Yep.
sort of how much on offense has changed, just not consistently.
Yeah, and I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about the defense, and I was texting with Cap yesterday morning about it while he was on air, just different things, and I understand and I see a difference myself, but Carr's end of the day, they got to go out and prove it against a big time quarterback on the road in front of a national audience, because none of what has happened matters if they go out there and get boat raced by Justin Herbert and the Chargers Sunday night.
And that's a team that is truly
All over the map.
struggling
Yeah.
in many different ways. Brandon Staley has been just a terrible head coach overall. And so it's a team that, I know this is going to be shocking to you, Shane. This is a Los Angeles Chargers team that can't stay healthy. When have we ever said that before about
Never,
them
ever.
whatsoever? But it's just a team that just can't put points on the board, cannot consistently get on offense. They have Justin Herbert has been sacked 15 times already for a team that's made the investments into the offensive line that they have.
They made big ones. The real big ones. Yeah.
And so you just kind of keep looking around, and to your point though, you got to see it happen, because it's our luck that something like this, and they come in and drop 45 points against us, right, and eliminate all of those kind of good vibes we've been building towards. But in the same respect on offense, they're not a good, the Chargers are not a good defense. And so are we going to sit down and kind of take away anything good that we do against them because of that, when the Raiders defense hasn't been terrible all season? So we should be giving ourselves more credit on offense this last week, maybe a little less on defense, and we'll see. But I feel like it's still the reverse. We're still all about the offense.
And just one thing, I mean, we talked about it just real quick pre-show, but I think it's important before we dive into some of the stuff that you prepared, that guys turn the page on this narrative and this myth that Tyson Bagent has a weak arm or can't make the throws and all of this complete and utter nonsense. If you can get by and dominate a game, not him personally, but the way that the Bears did in a non-aggressive play style, that's exactly what you do. Cole Kmet talked about it. We didn't have to open up the playbook because we were kicking their ass. And if you don't think that Tyson Bagent, I saw somebody in the chat was like, is he going to have a throw over 15 yards? If you're winning, I don't give a shit if you have a throw over 15 yards. He has a plenty enough strong arm, and for whatever reason, people are pigeonholing this kid into saying that he has, no arm talent, and Eberflus pulling him out before halftime. And again, I know I've talked on this before, but John Wood saying that just proves that he's a number 2 for the rest of his career. It's just complete foolishness. Arm strength can improve over time, and saying that this kid doesn't have some arm talent, you're making a big fatal mistake.
And so many of the people that are sitting there and saying, like, and we'll talk again about average depth of target and those things, were the same ones after the preseason game where we scored 3 touchdowns on screens, talking about how depth of target doesn't matter if we're getting yards after the catch, right? Like, in the end, you got to understand that there's a desire for a lot of folks for Justin Fields to be the guy. There's a desire for a lot of folks for Justin Fields to not be the guy. Some of those absolutely are racially motivated in certain instances. But for the most part, if you just look at this and look at the game plan, and to Shane's point, yeah, we didn't have to. When we needed, if he didn't have arm strength, he doesn't make that throw to Tyler Scott over the middle, and he doesn't make that throw to DJ Moore on the sideline like he did. And those are big time throws. I would love to see, yeah, some more 10 to 19-yard pass plays. The 20-yard pass plays are just such a
This might be the game
rarity.
that you see it. This might be the game you see it though.
Oh,
Against the
yeah.
Chargers. I mean,
And you're going to
let's
see
be
a lot
honest.
of screen game against the
Yep.
Chargers, because the Chargers are the worst defense in the NFL against the screen game.
Yep.
So, but I think when you just, and don't worry, we'll get into the debate and talk through some of the numbers and some of the things that we're seeing and all of that. But it doesn't, if I say something nice about Tyson, it doesn't mean that it's a negative about Justin. And again, we say this kind of every week. It doesn't have to be black or white. Life is not like that. No one is all good. No one is all evil. Everybody is a mix of everything in between. Just look at it. If you look at it objectively, and that's what we're trying to do here, I think you could see some differences. And if not, and if that's the way you want to be, like, I'm not here to argue with you. I don't really care, but I'm just showing you kind of the way that I view things. And I know that Shane always shares about the way he views things. And if you're not going to be receptive to it, that's to you. But like, it doesn't, if I say something nice about Tyson, it does not mean that I hate Justin Fields and vice versa. We've
We're
just got to get over that.
breaking down what happened in the game and what we have to go on. And that's, unfortunately, there's been a line drawn in the sand by Bears fans that if you're pro Justin, again, they're nitpicking every little thing that Tyson Bagent does that may be negative or positive, and vice versa. It's the other way around too. If you're pro Tyson Bagent and done with Justin, listen, guys, the Bears are not done with Justin Fields.
He's
right
starting in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
I mean,
if it's not next week.
Well, that's what I mean. That's the second week. New Orleans.
Oh,
2
right.
weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
He's starting. But I think, and before we go, Francisco Del Angelis, I think this is where a lot of fans are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We're tired of starting over. We just want to get it right. And we've never really gotten that position right. I would love it because of all the arm talent in the world. He can make every throw that you want out of it. The problem is that, and I don't know how you feel about it, and we'll circle back, but I think the problem is what Justin does extremely well is not something that Tyson really does extremely well, and vice versa. Like, these are two separate individuals that have completely varying skill sets, and it makes it really hard because you're not comparing apples to apples in these instances. Both are athletic, but whereas Justin has the arm talent and was more willing to wait for things to develop and make plays happen down the field, Tyson is more of the thing of, if my first read is open, I'm not waiting. I'm going to that first read. If my second one is there, I'm going to go to my second one. And it just kind of feels like it makes this nuanced discussion even more difficult because of how different these two truly are.
Yeah. And thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
And this is another one. This is another one that I saw a lot today over the past week. I think it would be pure lunacy by Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears to ship him. Cars, I don't know how you feel.
You're not going to.
It makes very, very little sense because you have no idea where your picks are going to be. Let's just say, for Carr's Keys' sake here, the Bears trade Justin Fields to the Atlanta Falcons for a second and a fifth round draft pick. And you start to go through this season, the rest of the season, with Tyson Bagent as your number one, and you may, win a couple more games. Carolina sneaks out a couple more games, and then you find yourself in the draft. You're drafting number 4 and number 6. Then what? You're out of you're out of Caleb Williams, you're out of Drake May, and then are you looking at JJ McCarthy? Is that I just think it makes very, very little sense. You have him under cost control right now, still wildly talented, has some warts, but to me, you keep him on this roster 100% until you know exactly the direction, and we're gonna know.
You can't trade him. You
Yeah,
just can't.
it's I mean, Cars, that would be the risk of all risks. I said, I mean,
Oh, it would be
craziness.
It would be terrible. And I have to do this. Sorry. Maisie, hello, go to bed. Stop giving your mother a hard time. Sorry. Sometimes you got a parent even through YouTube.
That's right.
No, and I think, the question is not a first, like you see this quite a bit of, a second, not a first. It's all potential based on Justin. Justin is still, he is in the complete kind of beauty is in the eye of the beholder situation. You either see what you see and you love it, or you see what you do and you don't. And it's you're not getting a surefire thing for a first rounder for Justin Fields at this point in time, unless you're proven you're not.
Listen, this is the art of the game. Maybe Seattle gets involved, maybe Atlanta gets involved, Arizona gets involved. Who knows who gets involved, and there's a bidding war. Maybe a team is just like, hey, screw it, we'll throw him a one. We know we got our guy. But I would say at this point right now, I cannot move off of him during this trade deadline. And I would think, I know Rick Spielman talked about it. He thinks you'd get a second plus for him in trade compensation.
Yeah.
And you would have more of a chance to extract more from a team in the offseason, for the simple fact is then everybody knows what direction they're headed in. They're going to know where their draft picks are slotted. All of that right now, it's just I think it would be a wildly risky move for Ryan Poles. And if I was in ownership, or if I was Kevin Warren, I would be nixing that deal if Ryan Poles came to me and said, hey, I want to ship this kid out of here. I don't see the upside in it at all, unless a team is just going to blow your doors in with the Godfather offer that you can't refuse. And that's simply not happening.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's one of those gray areas. There are things that Luke Getsy has done that haven't helped him. And there are things that he has done that hasn't helped himself. And again, we'll talk a lot deeper about that here shortly, because it's don't worry. I'm going to talk about defense, but 90% of this is going to be offense, because it's really the hot button thing. But it's not so clear cut that Getsy is the issue. I can look on film against Minnesota and see that he missed guys, right? He was not getting to first reads fast enough. And I will hit Getsy this week on some of his use of play calling and play action. Both of these things live in a world where they're both causing the issues. And you can, I don't want to sit down and say one is causing the other, but it's an issue all the way around. And at this point, my biggest complaint with Justin is that he has not developed into a faster progression, faster kind of guy. And that is on both he and the team. And it just shows. And Jake's right. That first play, DJ Moore was wide open. Yep. Wide open. Was supposed to be the first read. But the fact that was missed, that's not on Luke. So there are times where Luke dials it up and it's missed. There are times where it's a poor play design and Fields fixes it because of an escapability thing. It's just a mess all over the board. And we'll get to it. But I could tell it's going to be one of those nights tonight already.
It's been one of those weeks.
Oh, it's been insane. So Shall we get started?
Let's get into it. Let's go.
So I did want to say at this point, I want to start off with defense because we all killed them for how bad they looked through the first 4 weeks. And we saw it in scoring. We saw it in the run game. We saw it in a lot of different other pieces here. But let's just talk about the defense. And I think one of the things that we don't really focus on enough is just how good TJ Edwards has been for us as a team. But when you look at, again, I think if you go back and watch the first show, one of the things we said, Shane, is if this team gets to like middle of the pack in run defense, that's 3 to 4 wins. Well, right now the Bears are 5th in run defense. Now that may not seem like much, but 82 yards is 35 less than, or 33 less than they were giving up the first 4 weeks of the season. So yeah, they were giving up a shitload of yardage all over. But look at what they have done in the next 3 games. The numbers up there are massive, but like 38 yards per game rushing the ball for opposing teams, which is first. Under 2.5 yards a carry, first. Only 5 rushing first downs in 3 weeks. There have been 0 runs over 15 yards. So a stuff percentage is a run that doesn't get up a first down, does not get more than 4 yards on first down, and does not get over 3 yards on subsequent downs. Bears are first in that. Their teams are getting half a yard before contact, and they're getting only 2 yards after contact, both top 10 numbers. And because of that, they are the 3rd least amount of rushing attempts faced over those weeks. That's massive. And I know, Shane, we kind of talked about it ahead, but one of the biggest differences outside of the deployment of TJ Edwards has really been the use of both Billings and Dexter Jr. together on the field in rundowns. That is a nightmare solution for a lot of opposing offensive lines to face.
No, I totally agree. And I think it's easy to, like, I know Phil talks about it a lot. He's never been a Dexter fan, and it's important. And I think Phil obviously realizes this also, but this kid is so young in his development. He's literally played organized football. I think this is season 5. And so this is including high school and college. And now you're in the NFL. And again, is he coming into the NFL as a finished project? No.
God, no.
He's coming in as a big ball of clay with attributes that you cannot teach just with his size alone. Get off needs to be worked on. It needs to be way more consistent. It needs to be way more consistent in the 3rd and 4th quarters. But part of the process of when you're molding this piece of clay is an NFL offseason in an NFL weight program is going to be massive for a guy like
you can't put
Trevon
a price
Dexter.
on that. Yeah,
you
can't.
And there's plays out there where it just sheer raw talent is winning the day for him and letting him make plays. And I think as we get going along here, Cars, I just think you're going to see more and more plays made by Dexter, because slowly I think that confidence is starting to build. He was getting less reps and actually still making, I don't want to say making big impact plays, but he was being extremely effective at what he's been asked to do. Now, is he the prototype 3-tech? Absolutely not. And on draft day, when they drafted him, I said myself, oh, Bears got their nose. Yeah, they got their nose right there. But hey, who knows? Go out and get Jeffrey Simmons. Put him in there in that rotation.
It's something, but those numbers do tie into that last portion here. When you look at like where we're getting in sacks and pressure, he's absorbing double teams. He's actually getting to the quarterback at a good rate. He's getting hurries. And yeah, when we look at the air numbers, sure, we're fifth worst in the yards given up, but look at kind of what it is. They're third best in yards per attempt. You know, where we've gotten over the last 3 weeks, 4 interceptions. We have the 7th most sacks in the NFL the last 3 weeks. Let that set in for
Yeah.
a second. They're the 12th best time in time to pressure. So from snap to go, 2.4 seconds. And last but not least, when a lot of these throws, part of the reason they're so low, they're the best at getting down to checkdowns, to get a quarterback through those progressions and all of a sudden realizing nobody else is open and I've got to go to my outlet, which is a tight end, a running back, or a fullback. This is what happens when your defensive backfield that you've invested all these draft picks in is really starting to perform. But it's also what's happening with Dexter, Pickens. You know, you're seeing more out of Dominique Robinson a little bit. You're seeing more out of Ngakoue. You're seeing more. Justin Jones has been all
Well,
over the place.
Well, he finally rejoined the NFL because I mean
Yeah.
he was a goddamn ghost
Oh, yeah.
for weeks.
Yes.
I think I tweeted that out when he finally made a play 2 weeks ago. I'm like, hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
You know, thanks for joining back up.
I mean,
He's a solid piece. He should never be a starter.
yep.
Justin Jones. He's a solid rotational piece, a guy every team needs. And last year, who was your best defensive lineman? Cars.
Justin Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was not even close.
And he should be a rotational piece.
Yeah.
On a good team.
Yeah, and I think we see that. I think part of the reason we've seen him improve and kind of do that is because he's not out on the field as much as he used to. So I think some of these early season growing pains are very similar to the way they were last year when you talked about with Kyler Gordon and how it took a few weeks for those things to settle down and to get in. But if you look at this defense right now, Flus has them aggressive. He has them attacking. They are not waiting, you know, to sit down and see what they've done in the run game and how one-dimensional they've really forced teams to be. If you look at that number, right? Yeah, they're giving up, you know, 250 yards a game in the air. But as a defense, that means they're giving up 280 yards of total offense up. That's incredible numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And again, just I'm not trying to dismiss any of the numbers, but we have to do this against a legitimate quarterback, and that's 100% a factor in this. Again, and I repeated this when I was on CHGO After Dark on Keeping It 100, and I'll repeat it here again tonight. The 5 teams that Eberflus has won against as a head coach, the quarterbacks of those teams have been in order: Trey Lance, Davis Mills, Mac Jones / Bailey Zappi for the few reps that he got, Sam Howell, and then Brian Hoyer. So this Sunday night in SoFi versus the Chargers, you go out there and you continue this trend with these numbers that Cars just put up for you. Chargers have their warts. Justin Herbert is a big-time quarterback that can sling it all over the field. You go out there and you continue this trend, then I think everything gets solidified a little bit more in concrete, where you're like, wow, this is definitely trending to where we need and want it to go.
And it's, again, you're catching a team in the Chargers who the last 3 weeks, I think, have scored 24, 17, and 17. They've only had about 200 yards, give or take, of passing the last couple of weeks, and including they only passed for 150 yards against the Las Vegas Raiders. And you're talking about a team that's got Herbert, Allen, Mike Williams, you know, Quentin Johnson. There's a lot of weapons there, and they've been unable to make it work. So this is a team that if you take away the run, and to I always want to call them San Diego, to the Chargers' credit, They try to run the ball all the time. Eckler and Josh Kelly is a formidable duo. But if you make this team one-dimensional like you've done everywhere else, it does open the rest up and it allows you to be more aggressive. So if you stop that run, you're going to see it. And if you don't stop that run, I think that's a bit of a concern that it's going to open everything up for a nightmare situation.
Totally agree.
All right,
what do you got next?
Let's start the debates here, and let's go for let's start talking about the offense, and let's just make everybody hate us, shall we? So wanted to start off with the last 2 weeks where we just kind of look at some of the numbers for Bagent. And so some of the things that you look down and you see here, a lot has been made about that average depth of target, but the things that I take the most out of this one is, so first read percentage from last week or 2 weeks ago to last week, we see about a 20% dip. Which means he wasn't there. There was a little bit more time, even though Bagent still tends to escape the pocket a little bit early. You're seeing the other number that really stands out is the highly accurate throws. I've kind of said he reminds me a lot of kind of that Josh McCown when he came in, where he doesn't have the biggest arm, but he knows what the balls that he can throw are accurate. It's better than folks think. And you look at that percentage, it's extremely good when you look at that point. Look at part of the reason the screen game was working for one of Justin's biggest flaws is his screen game tosses are not very accurate. They're not.
It's been an issue forever. Since he's been here. Yep.
Look at Bagent's, they're significantly better. And if you look at kind of that time to throw, some of that was 2 weeks ago was 2 weeks ago, that was 2.15 against the blitzing Minnesota team. And yes, I forgot to change Vikings on week 7 over to the Raiders. My bad. But it went up to 2.66. So he got more comfortable. And what we saw is a lot more time, more throws behind the line of scrimmage. But look at that. In that 0 to 9, you're talking 10 for 10. Yeah, that's not the biggest throws in the world, but that's where he needs to be. And that's where most of that work was truly done. I want to see more out of that 10 to 19. I know that is significantly less than I think we would like to see. But when you look at those numbers, you just see a guy who, because he got all the snaps, because they were able to build a game plan a little bit more suited to him, we saw vast improvement in a lot of these things, in how he progressed through reads and how quickly the ball went out, on how quickly he got through progressions. So if you want to take anything positive away from that, it's that there was significant improvement from 1 week to another, and now we'll see into the third week basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, we talked about this, Cars, privately in text, and I know I've talked about it on air. Now NFL teams have an entire game on tape of Bagent. You heard Mark Sanchez talk about it on air. When he bails, where's he going? He's always bailing right. That's not, everybody's going to know that. They're going to pick up tendencies. Now, it's going to be, you have to have faith in Getsy. You have to have faith in Chris Morgan, faith in Matt Eberflus, faith in Tyson Bagent, that they can make the adjustments. The benefit of Tyson that he's going to have moving forward is that he's not a see it and rip it guy. You know what I mean?
He's going to trust the offense and what's there.
Exactly. Just like you said, Cars, you said it perfectly. If read one is open, the ball's gone. It's there. And that, when you're facing Bosa, when you're facing Mac, when you're facing Thule, all of these guys that can get after the quarterback from the Chargers, getting that ball out and into DJ Moore's hands, into Cole Kmet's hands, into Darnell Mooney's hands, Scott, these guys dumping it off to your running backs. it can dictate and change the entire game. It can ruin game plans defensively for teams with a quick release. How many times have we seen it over the years, Cars, when we invested heavily in nothing but defense? Oh, Green Bay's without 4 starters on their offensive line this week. And then the Bears didn't touch a quarterback, or they had one quarterback pressure because it's snap, boom, ball's gone.
Cardinals game in our
Yeah.
Super Bowl season, right? That's what Matt Leinart did over and over again. You're absolutely right. We see it all the time. And I do have to say, there is a little bit of overrating of the Chargers pass rush. You know,
listen, and you know why that is. I love Khalil Mack. I get it. Bose is a good player, but big names sell and move the meter for people. Everybody fell in love and was pissed off and was going back and throwing Ryan Poles under the bus he didn't trade Khalil Mack because of Khalil Mack's talent. He traded to get the contract off of the books so they could clear the decks financially. Everybody was pissed off after that 6 sack performance. He's got 7 sacks on the season. He had 6 against an Aiden O'Connell-led Raiders team.
Well, and that never chipped or doubled him. And that's the thing is they have 22 sacks on the season, which is a great number. 7 of them came in that game. And Khalil Mack, again, for all as good of a guy as he is, and he's still, you're a better team when he's out on the field. But when he had 8 sacks last year, and I feel like 6 of them came within the first 8 weeks, and he got 2 the remainder of the season. And he had 1 against Dallas, but he hasn't been around the quarterback a whole lot. He's had 1 sack and 2 quarterback hits since that game. It's not the same guy. It's not the same consistency. So I think you just kind of go, he's wonderful. He's still a guy that's a warrior. He's going to play. He's not the pass rusher that he used to be, especially if you take the time to block him correctly.
Your son actually makes a good point.
I hate that game is so frustrating, but that is an excellent one to go back to. That's what teams do. If we can't match up to you 1-to-1, we're gonna go quick game, and that's how we're gonna roll with it.
Is that the Dustin Reagan Padilla, formerly of the Brawl Network? Is that the same one?
I believe so. Yes, he's Foot Brawl, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely. All right, so let's start the fight in the chat, shall we? Here we go. So let's address the elephant in the room. This will be fun. So for those of you who don't follow Robert Schmitz, who does do some interesting things, he basically went through and validated a whole lot of the dropbacks. And so what he noticed is that Justin Fields, his tempo, as far as dropbacks, is significantly slower than league average. And you're talking about half a second. So when you look through all these other things, and it's a smaller term for Tyson, there's some things I want to call out here, because there should be a couple of different numbers that truly stand out. One is you look at that pressured percentage. So Justin Fields is pressured on 43% of his passes. When you actually take out the Minnesota game, it's still 40%. Move to the other side, it is 30%. When you take away Minnesota, it is 11% of the time. The reason I want to call that out is in the instance that your drop back is slower, that gives teams a lot more time to get there. And if there is quick edge pressure, you're bailing because you haven't finished your drop. Half second is night and day in the NFL. I mean, you're talking about the average guy, it's roughly about 1.5 seconds to get there. So if the average quarterback throws and just says, is the average quarterback is a 2.5 second time to throw, which is Tyson's number, that means that gives you a full second back there, feet set to read the field, scan the things, and make the throw. compare it to Justin. If Justin is now on average 2 seconds to drop back, that means he's got 0.8 of a second to make a read and make a throw. So when you look at these kind of that first overall number, what it starts to point a little bit is that part of the reason the offensive line looks bad in certain plays is because there is pressure early because of the pace of that drop back. So he in turn is actually creating some of the pressures that are forcing him to go ahead and escape and make a play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it shows underneath that in the fact of what that time to pressure is. It's a full 1/10 of a second longer for Tyson than it is for Justin. So that flip, Justin takes 2.8 seconds to throw, but 0.2 of a second before he throws, there's pressure. Whereas Tyson has 0.2 of a second after he throws until there is pressure. So that speed, that rhythm, all of that information that he's doing at this is helping the teams. If you guys remember, and I'll pop this off for one quick second. If you guys watched JT O'Sullivan after the Washington game, there was a couple times where JT would say in a video, I don't know why they did play action here because he's turning his back to the line and it's actually delaying his throw. There is not that delay when it comes to Tyson. Tyson's mechanics of footwork and play action are impeccable.
So real quick, Cars, this goes in Tools says,
yes,
this is why they put, but again, it goes beyond that. And this is where it becomes a coaching issue and where details matter. This is year 2 that they've been with Justin, and he's lackadaisical in his drop back. Why? Is it not a point of emphasis in the classroom, in training camp, in OTAs, all off season? This is why this coaching staff, and listen, Tyson Bagent is quicker in his drop back. Well, if Justin Fields is not great at that, and if he's lackadaisical at it, it needs to be addressed. And if you continue to do it, then guess what? Helmet off and sit right the fuck over there. It's that, Cars, it's literally that simple.
But they spent, and we heard the offseason that they worked on his drop back. That was one of the things that they worked on, was cleaning his footwork up and making that drop back faster. And now as we get into game time, that isn't happening right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, Derek, I understand this point, and I totally get what you mean. And you're right. We can absolutely, this is not necessarily in
Nobody's
praise.
crowned him, Derek. That's the point. We're pointing out positives in the limited set that we have, but it's a little thing like not being lackadaisical in your drop back that can really change the outcome of an entire offensive game plan.
But on top of that, Justin's accumulated a whole lot of games, and it's not getting there. And so there is this give and take. This is when I sit down and say Justin has not improved as the player that we want because of little things about this. His throwing arm and throwing motion has been slightly improved. That has happened. But his footwork on dropbacks, his speed on dropbacks, look at the play that they've never run this play with Justin Fields. And I'm sorry that I don't have I don't grab the video, but the play where he did a play action fake and sold it, that he actually turned his back to everybody and then curled around the outside to make a throw. They trusted him to do that as a play. We haven't seen that out of Justin. There has to be something in there for that. And I think we've just got to be aware that these things happen.
actually an important one too, Cars. I don't know if you want to address it.
I don't know, because my wife may leave me as well someday because of the same reason. So let me know, let me know who you've got as a divorce attorney. I may need to borrow them later on at point. But just to go back to kind of, some of this, what you also notice here is the other number that really stands out is the check down percentage. So look at that as to where Justin is. So the way I've tried to explain this, and it's a little bit of a word salad, is the way that I'm starting to view things or see things is Justin's slow drop back leads to an increase in the pressure rating, and he's hitting his first read at a lower clip than Tyson. But part of that is because the first guy, his route may be covered by the time that Justin finally gets to the top of his drop. So in some of these instances, it is causing him to miss first reads because either pressure is there, perceived pressure is there, or, the guy that is open right away, that's the first read, Justin is not ready to deliver the ball. We've kind of seen this where there's still this pause of see a guy open before I throw it open, as opposed to Bagent, who's more like, this guy should be open, I'm going to throw it and believe in that. And where that really starts to show in, that check down percentage out of a quarterback is an insanely high number.
And Cars, you want to know what else is a factor here? And this is something that we broke down in the draft, talked about, and didn't want to change because it's what got him here. But you can go back. It's something that Carson Wentz did. Is what is an absolute factor in this is this.
Yeah.
His release, we've talked about it ad nauseum here. But if you go ahead with this, I'll get a picture to show you exactly what I'm talking about to put up there. But it's that when you're talking tenths of seconds or even hundredths of seconds that are making a difference, this is also a factor. That's who he is. And we've had quarterback experts, quarterback coaches on the air live with us that said, no, I don't love it, but
you can't
it's
touch
not
it
something that it got you to the league and it becomes a mental thing. But it's one of those things that it just amplifies when you're talking about the lackadaisical drop back, then this on top of it before you throw. All of that matters. All of those tenths of seconds, hundredths of seconds, all of them add up.
And I just think if the drop back was faster,
it'd clean up a ton.
It cleans up so much more of this, and I think that's really what you have to look through and see. And these are not just my numbers. These are from a lot of different places where we look at you just look at a lot of different things across, and it starts to pass this eye test, right? Where it's what we've seen and what we've done. I think it just makes a whole lot of sense that these things add up to what the tape has shown. This shows kind of what we've seen, and I don't necessarily think it's progressing through reads. I don't think I think Kerry Franklin does have a good point. Doesn't it say that it won't cut it as a QB? If he doesn't improve that drop back, I think it's going to limit his ceiling the most. And from the guy that I still think he can be, you look at the Washington game and the Denver game, Justin's time to throw was over 3 seconds on those games. So there was time to let these things happen. He wasn't immediately pressured, so he can make some of these throws happen. There it is.
That's what we're talking about. And then what is another? And I listen, this sounds like we're piling on the kid, and we're really not. We're just pointing out of what these numbers are showing. what has been another issue with Justin is ball security and fumbling.
Yeah.
You look in a congested pocket where that could be easily swiped. That's what it is. That's one of the warts that you're going to have to live with is the release, but it's amplifying the problem, like what Cars is saying, the issue with the internal clock, the just a tick slow on the processing. It all matters.
I don't know if any of you ever ran track or anything, but some of the fastest guys could not win a race because they were the slowest out of the block, right? That the way you start and the speed that you start saves you 1/10 to 2/10 of a second, depending on the race. And that's enough to cost you that. So if you're talking about that in kind of those terms where a half second, think of everything else that Justin can do with a half second worth of time. And yes, there are some plays where he's faster, but it does feel like he is very slow and methodical in his pace. It then looks like that a lot of the pressure that is happening is because of him, is self-generated because of that.
Well, Cars, when you're talking the quick game and when you're just getting it out quick into the flat, you can see methodical is the perfect way to do it. He looks like he's actually overthinking
Yes.
and trying to do everything
Yes.
on script, on time, and attack rather than just breaking through, breaking the shackles off, snap, boom. That's what you're seeing with Tyson. It's boom. It's that quick. With Justin, there's a turn, this, then trying to be a delivery. And we've seen him dirt balls in the flat.
The screen game, again, like you see a lot was made out of that first touchdown throw in the preseason to DJ Moore and how inaccurate of a pass it was. Like you see that it happens. He was someone had said out there, and I think it was Zero. So no, sorry. Yeah, that's been his drop back since Ohio State. It always has been. And so I think it's unfortunately who he is as a guy. And I don't know, much like a throwing motion, I don't know what it does if you try to speed up a guy's drop back. How bad does that make the rest of the footwork? How bad does it make body control? Like what does that do? But what I will, again, if you give a quarterback half a second more, that's night and day. That's the difference between Justin at 3 seconds and why Justin can look so good when he has 3 seconds to throw, and why it looks more troublesome when he has 2.5 seconds to throw. I think the two, again, one of the biggest numbers that stands out to me, this is a similar line, right? This is Tevin Jenkins wasn't there, but Nate Davis, when he was there, was playing extremely well. The fact that the line is holding up 1/10 of a second longer for a guy who is getting into his drops quicker and selling on a play action, the line can help a quarterback can help a line. And I think what we're seeing in a lot of different ways is that's just not working. And so they may be working on time because he can work on dropbacks, even though he can't throw the ball right now, and they could work on that footwork. But if that sort of thing continues, you start to have to worry about what that means, again, longevity wise for his career as a starter.
Listen, and Cars, let's be honest. This isn't something in Hallis Hall. We're not breaking news here. You know what I mean? Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham, Luke Getzey, these guys understand where the fatal flaws are and know right now if it's something that they want to move forward with. They're never going to come out and say anything publicly about it, But Cars again, and I don't think this is breaking news either.
Decisions all but made at this point.
If they're drafting number one, and I'm not on the same page with people with Drake May. I think that there's a lot of
He
issues.
terrifies me so much.
So I'm just, I don't know. We'll see. And I'm pulling for Justin. Maybe the time off opens things up for him. We'll see. He's not done here in Chicago. He's going to be playing again, and I'm going to be rooting for him to unlock it. I just, right, wrong, or indifferent, he's going to have to blow up in a monstrous, big way over these next 10 weeks.
And the likelihood of that is just not very big, especially when you consider the fact that, like, you know, I think Justin is hurting himself a little bit. His first game back coming against a New Orleans team that's a very good defense. And you're going to be coming against two not, you know, like, or at least the Chargers instance, not as great of a defense.
And Justin wants to come back. If Tyson Bagent goes out and plays well, I think Eberflus says we'll give it another week, and then if they brought him back, it would be against Carolina at home that's a Thursday night game. But you know, we'll see.
And you know, again, I think as early as it is, if they make that decision, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go with Bagent, depending on where they draft and all of those different things. But at some point, they're going to make that decision and what's best for the organization. And
listen, Hendricks, again,
I can't blame anyone that wants to let go of him, and I can't blame anybody that wants to fight.
Has anybody heard me say that the Bears have to keep Justin Fields? And I've told everybody openly, guess what, guys? If the Bears have the number one pick, and I know everybody wants to put Caleb Williams in a different tier because of the Notre Dame game and because of, I will bet anybody here who's going to go number one in the draft.
No matter what, it's Caleb.
It's going to be Caleb Williams. And if Chicago's drafting number one, they're going to draft Caleb Williams. If Arizona's drafting number one, they're going to draft Caleb Williams.
They won't, because Caleb Williams refuses to play for them. But yes, you're not incorrect.
But you get my point.
I know. I had to make a smart ass remark.
Again, I'm a Chicago Bears fan first and foremost. Think that Justin is wildly talented and been very open about his issues, his warts. But at some point, you have a clock. There's a time when Tony Soprano and everybody comes knocking at the door where it's time for money to be involved and time for money to be paid up.
It's the Kenny Rogers thing. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, right? I mean, it's kind of the way. And Shane, you always say this. I think it's the best point to always make. You want to do it a year early as opposed to a year late. And I think that's.
And he's going to go. If the Bears move off of him and go into a different direction, he's going to go to another team, and he's going to have monster games. He's going to put up big numbers, and everybody's going to come back to Chicago and say the same thing. But at the same time, and I think he's a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. That's just me. But everybody said the same exact thing about me. Oh, you wait till Shanahan gets his hands on him.
Wait till he gets to Pittsburgh.
He's going to a great organization in Pittsburgh. Oh, they draft Kenny Pickett. Wait till Belichick gets him. Belichick didn't even sign him. Shanahan didn't sign him. So we'll see.
Agreed.
We'll see what happens. I think at some point, Justin Fields ends up in Atlanta if they end up moving him. Or
Ritter is not the answer. And I know everyone wants to talk about last week, but God, that guy is made. I don't know what they're doing, and I think they oftentimes regret that move. But I digress. All right,
we'll see.
Let's move on to other things. So, taking your feedback of no more Getsy pictures, Let's talk a little bit here about the offense and a little bit. So I wanted to kind of break this out because I think especially I was hammering on about the lack of balance, and I think one of the things that you still see here is we're a very, if we're in the 11, we're pass heavy. If we're in the 12, we're run heavy. What you are seeing though, and I hope that you're kind of getting out of this, is we went heavy a lot more last week, right? There were more snaps overall. There were more pass attempts. This is again something that we did very well for Tyson Bagent. I wish that we would consistently do this more week in, week out. We saw plays where it was Komet, Lewis, and Tanyan all on the field together. And I think we saw, the play action things. This was a little different here. When you look at that four passes and you go, that's 25%. We only ran one play action in the first half against the Vikings. It was asinine, and I don't think we would have run more play action that week had we not had to go to Tyson Bagent. So I think we saw some of these things happen, but my biggest concern continues to remain that we are basically a 2-to-1 pass to run ratio out of the 12. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. So my concern with Getsy, he was great for one half in Denver. He sucked the second half. He was great for a half in Washington. He was less great in the second half against Washington. He was brutal all of Minnesota, and he was better against Oakland. So if I look at this correctly, in 7 games, I would say that he has had 4 halves that have been well called, as opposed to the other 10 that have not. So it's still a concern, as excited as I want to sit down and get. I got really excited after Washington, and it went right back into the shitter.
And Cars again, we're almost expecting it to be the wrong game plan versus the Chargers.
Yeah.
Because this has been the norm for them.
Absolutely. It's a mess overall. And when you look at it too, the way that this breaks down, and this is a lot, so I just want you to look at kind of these numbers and understand we're a 1.4, so we're close to even as it comes to run pass in the 11. But God, look at the others. If we go heavy, we're running the ball. We're not a threat at all. And we've got talent at the tight end position. Look at the way they use Mercedes Lewis. Robert Tanyan is one of the least used talented pieces that we have on this roster, and I don't understand it. Cole Kmet has been asked to do a lot more blocking than he has asked to be doing receiving. Why are we not trying to make this as an overall touch? But when you get down to the bottom number, and I'm going to break down play action a little bit more, we're 21st overall in play action attempts. But when you look at why I'm such a stickler for this, we have the 6th highest completion percentage. We have a great our quarterback rating is better. Our depth of target is better. All of these things are better. If you go back to that other conversation, though, is Justin Fields' ability to drop back and do those fakes and turn his back to the line, is that impacting their desire overall to run play action with him, even though his numbers show that he is better? So again, if you look at this, the breakouts look great, right? We started off so 11 heavy, and now we're really way more balanced overall. You're seeing a lot more 12, a lot more 21 personnel, but we're not passing the ball enough. And for a team that is the 5th best rush offense in yards per game in the
That's not why Tanyan's here.
Yeah.
Tanyan's not here to block.
Yeah, that's not his role. That's why you have the other two guys here.
Just real quick, Cars. I just want to. I'm assuming, Frank, you must be watching the show late, or maybe you're not live, because the elephant in the we're not.
We just talked about this.
It's literally exactly the opposite of what I mean. The way that you're phrasing it here is saying that we're praising Justin Fields as the be all end all, and I'm not sure. I'm just assuming you're starting and just assuming what we're talking about. Because it's
But
not an elephant in the room when we've been
You-
showing you the issues.
We just talked about it for 15 minutes, it feels like. So no, it's not an elephant in the room. We've talked about it quite a bit here. And I think it just shows you the defense of this player and how everybody gets caught up. It's always like my favorite score callers are the ones that always call in and say, why is nobody talking about? Guess what? Everybody's talking about it. It is being discussed. It is the play. It is everything that's going on. It's being discussed, and people just don't necessarily like all the conversation. And I think, the last portion I just wanted to get to when it gets to overall numbers is 27 of the 45 play action plays have come in 3 games. And when you factor in Denver, that all but one of those came in the first half, you're really talking about 26 of the 45 have come in 5 halves of a season. 5 halves out of a total of 14 have had play action. When you look at where we are in the losses, we're a 16% play action number. That's abysmal. That is inexcusable. That is just ridiculous. Now, when you look at again where these plays come, so much of them are in the first half. And look at the numbers, look at the yards per attempt, look at where the depth is. For a team that is 5th overall in rushing, you should play action more. And the fact that we're play actioning so often out of the 12 is great, because of all of our pass attempts that we have out of the 12, and if you look again in this, we have 20 pass attempts in the 12. 16 of those have been play action. Right? You're talking 80% of your dropbacks in the 12 are play action. This is why you should be in the 12 more often. This is why you should go look that way. I love that Tyler Scott is making plays and making things happen. But you right now, as a team, are better in that formation. You're better as a running team and as a passing team if you focus on it, and you're just not doing it. You've got to go heavy. You've got to go play action. Again, I said this 2 weeks ago. Kevin O'Connell comes from the Rams that were not a heavy play action team. And he went to Minnesota and he looked at what Kirk Cousins does really well. And he says, you know what? We're going to incorporate this play action. Right. And guess what they do without much of a running game right now? They run the shit out of play action. And so when you look at kind of, when I say the teams ahead of you, it's really weird to sit down and say the Bears are, I believe, 12th or so in scoring per game, right? So 12th overall in scoring per game in the NFL. And the teams that I list ahead, these are the top 5 offenses in the NFL, and it relates to their play action percentage. So what do you see? There's a reason that why in these wins at 29% that we're winning, because we are playing like that offensive system. Miami, Cleveland, Baltimore, Philly, all of these teams are running play action at this clip, and we get away from it all the time.
Frank just caught up, by the way.
Good. And so these are the things that kill me. Like You start to look at the numbers of first half versus second half. We get a lead, we stop running play action. We get a lead, we stop doing everything that got us here. And we don't run it enough. And why is that? Some of it is talent, some of it is bad play calling, but I think a lot more of it starts to look like, and again, I'm really interested to see what those numbers look like against LA, because if we see again Bagent run 25, 30%
Right.
play action, I think that starts to shine a light that where the coaching staff sees a bit of the issue in being.
And how many times have we talked about we just want to see consistency
Week in, week
from
out.
Justin? And it's beyond the players, Cars. When we're talking about that, we're talking about from Eberflus, we're talking about from Getsy, we're talking about from all of these guys. It includes them. And listen, unfortunately, when it comes to a head coach, it goes beyond the football field. It's how you're handling situations. You're not getting pantsed publicly about the Chase Claypool situation and openly lying about it and have your PR team come out and pull you out of the quicksand. All of that stuff matters. And I understand he's never been a head coach, but Matt Eberflus has been in the NFL for a very, very long time. This isn't a 34-year-old first time, head coach that's kind of new in the league. And there's going to be growing pains, but my confidence level that these are going to be the guys that get the Bears where we all want them to go, it's just not there, man. And if you're making a quarterback change, I don't want these guys anywhere near it. I just don't.
It's a problem. It's, again, we can't sit down. Justin Fields is not the only issue. It's not all on Justin. It's not all on Luke Getsy. And where these nuanced discussions really struggle is in the fact that you can't sit down and simply point your finger at one thing and say that 100% is it.
Yeah.
Now, to the staff's fault is, why are you not fixing it? Like, why aren't we being these things consistently? It's an issue.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to sit down and point specifically at one thing when it's a combination of 5, 6 different things that are just
right
continuing over and over again.
Yeah, Cal, we see you, but I'll be perfectly blunt and honest, and I'll turn into the guy that people don't like here at TTNL when I'm perfectly blunt. When you act like an asshole and you repeat the same thing 175 times in the chat room to try to get noticed, we're going to intentionally not pay any attention to you because you look like a dick. So I don't know how any better I can say that to you. If you want to get in, contribute, talk about some good football stuff and trying to be an asshole, then we'll put your chat up. But until then, you'll fade to black, like you just said in all the other chats. Don't be a dick. We can talk football and have fun. There you go.
Yeah. That's really it. I think, again, I'm not building my statue to Tyson Bagent just yet outside of Soldier Field, but I think there's some exciting things there
to build on, Cars, and this is my point back on draft day. You see one thing with a kid or two things as a quarterback, especially, that you're like, wow, that's something that I can work with. And again, the Bears have not done it.
I mean,
when I watched Tyson, you could just see, you knew that there was something there to work with. The kid has thrown a ton of passes. He's played a ton of ball. It wasn't at a high level, but that's not he got D1 offers from big time schools for a reason, but he stayed committed to Shepherd. And that's a testament to the kid. But the Bears, luckily, got him as a UDFA. Nobody's crowning him, like Carr said. We're not building a statue. If you get a backup quarterback out of this as a UDFA, fantastic. If you get a spot starter, fantastic. If he becomes Brock Purdy, let's fucking go. We'll see.
And I think that's the thing. And there are little things, like Darnell Mooney saw the most targets he's seen all season since week 1, right? Like Darnell Mooney, again, the yards per catch weren't big numbers, but we've been saying, where is Darnell Mooney? Why is he not more involved in these things? Look who showed up. Look at Tyler Scott showed up. We saw the first pass attempt to Mercedes Lewis, it feels like. These things, sometimes when a lot of players are disappearing or aren't showing what it is, it's a weird moment. And so again, if you see Darnell Mooney have another 5, 6, 7, 8 target game, and you see DJ Moore continue to be involved early, and you see a guy who's getting through his progressions and making these things happen, if he stays in the pocket and trusts his protection just a little bit more, those things start to build. And like it or not, if Bagent goes out and has a great game and Fields comes back a week later and struggles,
his leash
is going to be real short.
Well, it's short anyway right now, Carr.
Oh yeah.
It just is. It just is. And that's where we're at. We wanted to have this season be the season where the questions were all answered, and maybe they'll get there. I don't have confidence that they're going to get there and have the questions answered, because I think that there's so many different ways that are all pointing the wrong direction for these things to get answered. And unfortunately, the worst possible thing that could have happened was Justin getting hurt. And Justin doesn't have anybody to blame but himself on the play where he got hurt. It's 100% on Justin Fields. DJ was wide open, Cars on that curl route quick. And what did they say? Adam Hogue was, what did they say, 11 times during that play? He was screaming, throw it.
Yeah.
And
it was
Tom Thayer live on the radio broadcast was screaming at the top of his lungs, throw it. I was doing the same thing here. 6.9 is going to get you killed.
You can't do it. You just can't. And it just shows that there is something happening in his head. And it was what made Ohio State such a great offense when he was there was, if nothing's open, you wait another second and you can make it happen. Because that offensive line, nobody was getting through. You had 3 first rounders, all at wide receiver position. Cornerbacks in college are super tough to find. Nobody was going to be able to protect and cover up Garrett Wilson, Olave, and when he was healthy, Smith and Jigba for that long. The problem has been was the game has sped up. As that has happened, he is still that same guy. He's still going to hold on to that ball and hope that's something that delivers. The difference is he seems to be locking on to one guy in that thing instead of looking around the ball, around the place and looking around. Because if that was the case, he would have hit DJ Moore in that pass play. I don't know what's happening right now. And it starts to beg the question, is he done here? And I think, we're not there yet, but I think
trending that way.
We're trending that way.
To be honest. And Joe, I'm glad you put that up there about Thayer. And he shouldn't be embarrassed about saying that, because that is an honest, raw emotion that 99% of people that know anything about football were doing the same. I sat right here in my studio at home here watching the game with my son, screaming the same thing. Get rid of it. Throw it. I mean, you were even out of the pocket. Just, you're out of the tackle box, man. 6.9 cannot happen.
No, it is.
You
bad.
saw the result. So Tom Thayer should not be embarrassed. Listen, I don't want these guys cookie cutter, and I understand they're employees of the Bears. No, man, that is an honest assessment. And that's what from people that are covering the game, that's exactly what I want. That's when we call out people that are breaking things down when they don't want to be critical because they know that it's going to upset the masses. And that means you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
It's just, listen, we all want the Bears to win. When Justin Fields was drafted here, we were resoundingly excited. We want nothing but the best for the kid. But at some point, reality hits you right in the fucking face. And are we going to be doing the same thing in a year, in 2 years? Ryan Poles, if he's brought back, and I think that they're going to bring him back, obviously, has his ducks in a row to make a move. And if you're talking about trending with Justin Fields, it's trending that he'll be moving away from Chicago. The way that the draft is set up, it's trending that the Bears are going to be in a very favorable spot with those 2 picks.
An insane spot. But I think
if it ended today, Cars were drafted number 1 and number 3.
But the thing is I don't think it's going to end that way for us.
I agree.
Because you look going through, I think we've got a winnable game this week. I think we have a winnable game, even though I don't like the defense matchup. I don't really believe in Carr and the Saints, and then you've got Carolina. It's not necessarily outside of the realm here of still of like a 6-7 win season. But and again, the best case scenario for that is you're playing that well because your defense is carrying you and your offense is starting to click. It does get a little dicey after that when you get to Detroit, Minnesota, then you're by Detroit, Cleveland, but then you go Arizona, Atlanta, Green Bay, and Green Bay is imploding massively. There's still that room. And as a Bears team, the way that I always look at it is the Carolina pick right now is playing with house money. If you're at Vegas right now, you're not betting your own money. You're playing money that you have earned somewhere else. So go make sure your other guys are developing. Make sure your other guys are performing. Again, look at the game that Darnell Wright put out last week. One-armed. Look at the way that DJ Moore played, the way that Foreman came out, which I think, again, is another indictment of the staff, is how powerfully.
It's a massive indictment, Cars.
Huge.
And it bubbled. And listen, this may be minor in the grand scheme of things. It bubbled over into the friggin' post game. They're handing out game balls. They essentially cast him off, and he's like, they're breaking down wait. We got one more. And here's Deontay Foreman after a 3-touchdown game. It's just that pissed me off. It really did. Where would you have been Sunday without that guy?
We would have been dead to rights. But you look at the way this team is going. Gordon is stepping up. Tyreek Stevenson has played significantly better the last few weeks. Brisker has showed up. Everybody sits down and complains about Edmonds. But guess what? In this defense, Shane, what position is the playmaking position in linebacker in this division, in this defense? The will, which is where they have Edwards. What are they asking Edmonds to do? Cover a whole lot of ground. They're asking him to take away the middle of the field. That is why those things are not happening in the middle. That's partially why yards per attempt for opposing defenses are so low. Who's got 2 of the 4 interceptions? It's Edmonds, right? Like these are plays to be happen. But when you're talking about Dexter is stepping up, Pickens is stepping up, Darnell Wright is playing really well, Tevin Jenkins is coming along well. Hey, Lucas Patrick has been playing pretty good at center. I'm not going to say great.
He
but he's
played
been
his best game, I think, as a Bear this past week, Cars.
absolutely.
Another guy that played better than I was expecting was Cody Whitehair.
Yes.
He
Cody-
did. I got to give him his props. And I was extremely critical about the Bears moving Tevin once again. If he can stay healthy, man, I look at that. But unfortunately, when Nate Davis comes back, they're gonna put Nate Davis back there. Well, I mean, he's probably going to be out for a while with a high ankle sprain and that size. But you think about that, if they can stay healthy, you think about that right side with Tevin and with Darnell Wright. And I mean, Cars, there is not a lot of players that are going to go out there against Max Crosby with one arm, and then he's out there in a limited fashion even today at practice.
Yeah.
And this is a 21-year-old kid that got a lot of guaranteed money. Those are the things that you learn when you're in the draft process. You try to learn about the kid's heart. You try to learn about the kid's want to. Jalen Carter going out there and playing with one arm?
No.
Could they even get Jalen Carter to practice every day at Georgia?
No.
And
would any of the
guess what?
coaches say positive things about him?
And guess
No.
what matters? Just like Justin Fields' story has not been written for his entire NFL career, Jalen Carter's has not been written yet either. There's a long way to go for right now. It looks very, very good for Philly. I understand that, but we're in such a reactionary society that, Khalil Mack is back. He's the best pass rusher in the NFL. Let's just pump the brakes just a little bit, sit back and see how things play out. I would still draft Darnell Wright.
Yeah.
Just like
100%.
the Bears did.
And the only reason I have this comment up, dude, the Raiders were 11th in defense. They've given up 30.
Just let me address this asshole real
Lord.
quick. So, Sanders, I am not trying to make a dumbass point, because if you know your ass from your elbow and listen to any of us here, we broke down and were very upfront with all of our issues with Jalen Carter from Jump Street. So I know that you're trying to be a badass in the chat and all of this and think that you're really, really witty. That's fine. You don't know shit about TTNL. You don't know what we do here. And that's just what it is. I'm not saying anything about Jalen Carter that the other teams in the NFL passed on him the same way. He went to a kick-ass situation for Jalen Carter. His story has not been written yet. That's all I'm saying. So I'm not trying to make a point and shit on the kid.
What a brilliant statement. Wow. Still not top 10. Thanks. They've given up 30 points of offense to two teams, and it's us and the Buffalo Bills. That's it. So yeah, I guess that doesn't mean a whole lot, but 11th is not in the top 10. I'm glad to see Common Core math is working out very well for everyone. So anyway, it's ridiculous, and we'll get through it. But I think, overall, I think we see where this is going. It's going to be interesting to see where this team is, because if you're getting where you are because the youth of the team is actually making the plays, it's the youth that is standing out. It's not the older veterans. It really does show that the arrow is if you get some more talent, we'll get through it. And I think that just means so much more. And that's it.
There you go, man. We're almost an hour and 30 in here, but so we went through it last night, Cars. I picked, trying to think of the score that I picked. I think it was 28-20. Chargers was my pick for Sunday Night Football. What say you?
I am actually going to go with the Bears winning 24-17. I kind of feel like the Chargers team is on the brink here of being a lost season in the way that they believe or don't believe in Brandon Staley. You know, they're a terrible screen team. They're not a good defense. The offense is not, you know, again, you look at the last kind of couple of weeks here, they have been really not lighting it up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put a little bit more into the Bears. So this means most likely that the Chargers will win, because every time I start to get overly confident, we get killed. So yeah.
That's the way it goes. This is a good question, and I think if they activated him today, correct? They put him in his 21-day window. If they put him out there, I don't think that they will, Cars, but let's just say they did. I think it would be the same type of deal that they did with Jenkins,
Yeah.
where they might put him out there for a handful of snaps just to get his feet wet. And that could be a big ask, you know, at left tackle, but we'll see how that happens. But I wouldn't be shocked if they give him another week. You know, next can be.
I think they'll give it.
Wonky. Yeah,
they'll want him with Cameron Jordan coming on. You know, I think that's going to be a big focus for them. But I think, again, you know, if I think the offensive line is playing better now, I can't wait to see it. If you go left to right, you know, Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Lucas Patrick, Nate Davis, Darnell Wright, like that feels like that's a line that you win with, and can really dominate the line of scrimmage. And again, I think as a against a Chargers team that is 32nd against the pass, which is the only reason that their rushing numbers look so good. I think this is a team that you can kind of just gash all over the place, and really, again, very similar to kind of the Oakland game. You can control the time of possession. You can make things happen and kind of keep that offense off the field. And I think that really turns the tide for us.
So I got a couple comments here before we finish off with the super chats. Ben Ricketts, our guy, says, Cars, I know you talked about Chase Young before and had your opinion on the injury-prone defensive end, but do you think Poles will pull the trigger on a Chase Young or a Montez Sweat?
Yes, I think because Washington.
I don't see how you can't.
Well, and I think it's twofold. I think Washington has finally realized their mistakes, right? That Sam Howell isn't that they haven't focused on the offense, that there's no way, shape, or form that they should sign both of those players and keep $100 million starting defensive line. It doesn't make sense. I did find it interesting today that the reports were that they're more inclined to keep Chase Young, which I think makes a whole lot of sense because of his ceiling. And I would be
20. There's Sweat is what, 27, and Young is still only 24 years old, correct?
Yes, correct. So I think, if you have that move, and it's a day 2 pick, you're probably making that trade, no questions asked.
All right. So thank you, Ben. Russell Webster. I hate to say it, but Chris Sims' evaluation on Fields was right. Yeah, I'm not going to go there saying that. I mean, he had him below Kellen Mond.
But he did have a lot of these concerns that are showing right now, which is concerning that we have to give Chris Sims some credit.
Yep. So there's that. So we're going to dive into these. Our guy, Kerry Franklin. TTNL has made some good points on why to fire the staff. Shane has made the point, wait till the Bears beat a good quarterback. I know a lot of fans want a new head coach or Harbaugh. This staff is learning how to win, and they deserve some more time. Well, I think at this point, they're gonna obviously get the season, Kerry, but like I said, it goes beyond. They're just making miscues, like simple miscues that there's no way that Deontay Foreman should just be getting involved into your game plan. And
it shows an offensive staff issue. It shows you've got big time issues on your offensive staff. So you've got to be willing to make changes.
And it goes back to the lackadaisical dropbacks.
Yes.
How much of a coaching issue is that each and every day with Justin? It's obviously an issue. It's an issue on tape. Schmitz put the stop clock on it and showed you. Cars doubled down on it tonight and showed you. It's a Justin issue, but it's a 100% a coaching, to Cars' point, offensive coaching issue. And this is on Eberflus's watch because he's the head coach. Ryan Poles is a part of it too. He hired this guy. So I get it. I'm at the end of my rope with the staff and where I think this is headed. I don't want them around
Completely agreed.
another quarterback.
Completely agreed.
Our guy Bill Wagner, that Joker slide in the background is very appropriate given the slides content. Can't wait to move off of Getsy the Monday after week 17. Hey, we will be here live on a pop-up show breaking all of that down. And I think that the Bears off-season, post-season presser when the season is over is going to be very, very telling. This is going to be the first one with Kevin Warren on the clock. Will he make an appearance? He may not. We'll see. This may be Ryan Poles' show out there. We'll see how that is. Before you've seen George McCaskey out there, you've seen Ted Phillips. It's going to be interesting to see the structure and the way that is. So we got a few weeks to wait on that. But thank you, Bill. Appreciate you, brother. Frank, love you guys. Love you too, buddy.
Maybe.
Even though you started the show late and were questioning us. Kidding. I love you. Jake, if Justin comes back and looks bad against New Orleans, do you think they put Bagent in? I think Justin's leash is going to be not long. It's going to be very short. If they feel that, listen, if this is a staff that's in trouble and they feel that Tyson Bagent gives them the best chance to win, if that is their analysis, that's where they're going to go. Plain and simple to me. So we'll see. But Cars brings up a great point. Is New Orleans really the best team to come back against? With a very stout defense? Probably not. I've maintained I think it's going to end up being Carolina, but again, we'll see what happens.
Pressure. If he plays well, pressure ramps up, and so it gets very interesting.
Kerry Franklin chimes back in again. As Shane has said, in the end, I want the Bears to win. In my opinion, I think this staff could make it happen. I'm not on the cocaine train that Kerry's on. I'm kidding by saying that, but yeah, I don't see it, Kerry, with the staff. To me, if you can sit here and point out the warts with Justin Fields and say that there's some major concerns, I have major concerns about this coaching staff.
It still goes back to me
forward.
The Allen Williams thing, and that they sent out, who was it, Tyreek Stevenson, to talk without actually giving him any of the information, and something that they've never addressed. There is a backbone that seems to be missing from this coaching staff that is a very big concern. Do I think that they can win more? Yes, because I think you're seeing that defense, but the fact that the offense has been such a shit show, and the play calling and the inconsistencies, and who's active and who's not, and who's getting moved around on the offensive line, and where all these folks line up, it's really again, both of these things can be true. The defensive side of the ball can be well set and be set for growth, while the offensive side is still massively holding them back. And if they don't care to acknowledge anything that's going wrong, I do think it's a problem.
Yeah, I don't have the exact date.
May 2nd.
Yeah, it's like May of 2024. So it would have to be before, the off season, the OTAs of heading into year 4.
Yes.
For Justin.
Yeah. So they've got, because that's the whole reason that it pushed the Packers to do the Jordan Love thing, is before they could get there, they didn't want it to explode and then cost them, $40 million as opposed to 15,
right?
Which is looking like a really good business decision by them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But beyond that, man, I think we're going to wrap it up here. This brings to a conclusion our string of shows here on TTNL Network, starting with BHL that went live right after the Raiders game. Monday night is the Super 16 poll show with Chris Sorich. Tuesday night, we have a twofer with another Bears show live with Ivan Vargas, followed up by Keeping It Fantasy with Mr. Vargas once again and Christopher Jackal. Jackal back on the mend. I think he was a little bit under the weather and stuff like that. Keeping it 100 last night live with Bears running back Darrington Evans, who's going to be a factor. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah.
I think 100 cars. If I have to make a decision on a running back right now, Evans is included in my depth chart over Homer. Even I understand.
I'm done with the Travis Homer thing. I understand that he's a wonderful special teams player, but the fact that he was your third running back and we saw what happened when they just simply tried to pitch him the ball, I don't know what he offers you anywhere else. We cannot keep him, Velus Jones, and other one-trick ponies on the active roster day to day.
Totally agree. And if you go back, and I talked to Darren about this, or Darrington about this privately, man, you go back to some of those runs, he had 3 chunk plays called back. And if you add those to what he was production wise, he's just about at 100 yards rushing for the day.
And yeah, and was explosive all over the place.
Yep.
The hard part is coming back. I expect Roshan will be active this week. I'm going to be really interested to see the way they split carries because it should not come at the expense of Foreman.
No, he can't, Cars. He's
so different.
He's your horse. He's your lead dog, and everybody beyond that is going to be the relief pitcher, the change of pace guy. I totally agree. We said it to start the season, and that's not a shot at Khalil Herbert or anybody else. Deontay Foreman is the guy that should be out there setting the tone, RB1, and then you work off of him from there. So I totally agree, man. So we will see you guys. It's going to be a late one Sunday night as we play the Chargers. Hopefully the Bears can pull out another win. And
not a good place to pause, but let's clip that. Hopefully the Bears will pull out a win.
A win. Yeah. Clip that one. Absolutely. But just real quick, a reminder, if you are a TTNL network patron, and if you're not, head over to the tapeneverlies.com and sign up. Next Wednesday on Keeping It 100, we are having a live patron roundtable where we will be having patrons in and out to talk about the season to date. We'll be talking about the Chargers game. We will have the trade deadline in our rear view at that point. So there's going to be tons to talk about, tons to react to. So if you are a TTNL Network patron, you will have the ability to come on, reach out to me on Twitter at Wazram, or DM me on the patron app, and we'll get you set up, ready to go, and talk some football on Wednesday night. But beyond that, Cars, I'll let you sign off any way you want to here, buddy. What do you got?
Jesus Christ. That's all I have. That's it.
And a great man once said, Cars,
I love balls.
Well, I wasn't
well
expecting
documented.
that, Phil, but yeah, we'll get out of here. Love you guys. We'll see you Bears versus Chargers Sunday Night Football. Let's go Bears. We're out of here.